you only lessons that truly matter for achieving big ass goals. Starting with number one, poor people suffer. Rich people suffer. Single people suffer. Married people suffer. Entrepreneurs suffer. Employees suffer. Suffering is a fixed cost of life. So pick a life, pick a goal worth suffering for. Your business will be painful when it's shrinking. It will be painful when it's plateauing. It will be painful when it's growing. The biggest alpha that we can generate as entrepreneurs or as human beings is picking destinations that we believe are meaningful enough for us to get through the hard times, right? I think it was Viktor Frankl who said, a man who has a big enough why can bear almost any how, right? And so the idea is that the how, we know it's fixed. It will suck. It will suck. And the flavor of sucking will change. Sometimes it will manifest as uncertainty. It will come in because you don't know what you have to do, but you have to take action either way. You know you have to do something, you don't know what to do. And so you have this fixed cost that you will incur for taking this action, for spending this money, for making this bet, but the casino table has odds that aren't predetermined. You don't know if you put it on 32, you get 30x. If you put it on red, you get double, right? You don't know that. You don't know it. And so you basically just have to put your chips on the table and hope. And that consistent process of making bets with uncertain payoffs is incredibly painful. It's almost the antithesis of what allows you to survive. And so you have to go against your human instinct of surviving to make it through in business. Because if you had that instinct naturally, you'd say, oh, these berries, I'm just going to go eat them. And then you eat them, so variable, and then you die. And then your genes wouldn't proliferate it. And so the genes that we have are literally meant for us to survive, not for us to build big businesses, because the entire process is horrible. This ties directly into something that I mentioned at the start of this, which is that no matter what your goal is, you will suffer in order to achieve it, right? So just pick one that is big enough that it's worth suffering for. The other part of that pain, so one is uncertainty. Some of the other pain is from outside people, right? If you do nothing or you do anything, people will criticize you. They'll criticize you if you do nothing. Like, think about it. If you do, he doesn't do anything, you'll get criticism. If you do anything, they're like, oh, he's doing it. Look how stupid it is. People will criticize you. So the idea is do things that it is worth being criticized for you. And to me, pursuing goals, my own goals, is worth being criticized for. Like if you believe that you want to make this difference, make this change, help people out in some specific way. I think Alex Becker said this and I just love this. He's like, you have to embrace the cringe. Whenever you start at anything, you will suck and you will be embarrassing. You will look back at yourself and you will be embarrassed. Think about how you were as a toddler. Think about how embarrassing you are probably to your parents or were to your parents when you were a child learning how to be a human. It doesn't mean that being human and not living is not worth doing. It just means that you have to go through that phase. Big picture number one is that the cost of the suffering is fixed. And what's beautiful about that is like, what we're looking for is arbitrage in the difference between our suffering and what we get for it. But the beauty is our suffering is relatively fixed. Life is hard. But what we get for our lives is what we get to pick. And I think that's pretty cool. Like we get to pick how big we want our goals to be. And so this fixed cost, like let's say someone says to you, whatever your life savings is, whatever the amount is, your life savings is a lot of money to you. It's your life savings. If someone says, I'm going to take your life savings and you get one thing, wouldn't you make that one thing worth giving your life savings for? And so it's the same idea is that like your cost is going to be suffering. It's going to be uncertainty. It's going to be criticism. It's going to be mistakes. It's going to be failures. It's going to be feeling stupid. It's going to be looking cringe. It's going to be being embarrassed. That's your cost. And so the question is, most people trade it for a bag of chips. They trade it for Netflix. They trade it for staying in on the weekend, right? They trade it for sleeping in. And that's why it feels even worse, because you traded your life savings, you traded your life for something that wasn't worth it. And so we can't control this one, but we can control this one. And I think that's the value. So it brings me to my second thing. You can beat 99% of people if you can master the shame of rejection, the boredom of repetition, and the pain of feedback. You can beat almost anyone at anything if you're willing to fail 20 times in a row, look stupid in front of people that you care about, and keep going long after it stopped being convenient. So let me unpack that for a second. In 20 hours, most people can achieve a base level of competence in just about any skill. And that includes money-making skills. That's what's crazy. Like, you want to learn sales? Your first 20 hours of sales, you will learn more about sales than all of the videos and all the books you've ever read. Because you have so much more feedback because you're actually doing it. That's the thing, is that you need feedback cycles to learn. And learning, for everyone, same condition, new behavior. So if you watch more videos, but your conditions are the same, and your behavior does not change, you entertained yourself. You did not educate yourself. Learning only manifests with a change in behavior in the same conditions. And so if you're going to consume stuff, you have to act on it in order for learning to occur. And so I say this because, as somebody who once was a wantrepreneur who liked to tickle my ears with different books and self-help stuff, I realized one day, this was when I was 21 or 22, I had read like 14 self-help books over like a quarter. And I was like, I'm going to read a book a week, that whole thing, right? And I realized at the end of the 14 books, I was in the same job, working in the same city, and nothing in my life had changed. And so I was like, well, then what was the outcome of those books? What was the point of reading them? And then I was like, oh, if I don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. And so then at that point, I then vowed that the next book that I read, I would do everything in the book. And until I had done that, I wouldn't read another book. And then I quit my job and I drove across the country, and then a lot of things changed, right? But I say that because some of you guys are in that boat, but it scales all the way up. You can change your entire bloodline the moment you realize that what you do next always matters more than what you did last. And so even though I had read 14 books in a row, it doesn't mean that on my 15th book or your 15th book or your 15th video or 500th video, that what you choose to do after that can literally change and can overcome, can supersede everything that came before it. And I think if that's not an inspiring message, I don't know what is. And so I saw this tweet the other day by Chimp. So Chimp, what up? Maybe you'll see this. But this is what he or she said. The past 9 years feels entirely wasted, to be honest. I was 23. This year, I turned 32. No job, no wife, no kids, no generational wealth like I promised myself, that it would all be worth it. I just fumbled my 20s chasing imaginary numbers on the internet. What the fuck? So I read this, and I think it hit me when I was scrolling on X. And the thing is that, like, if you ask high school seniors, which of them believes that they will be a millionaire by 25, it's over 50%. And to me, that demonstrates a huge amount of delusion. People have no idea what it takes. And to the same degree, the fact that governments, will give $100,000, $200,000 loans to people who've never made money in their lives to earn a degree that has no earning power anymore at all is unbelievably irresponsible and arguably unethical, because you're talking to somebody who barely has any life experience. When I think about that last line, though, of I just fumbled my 20s chasing imaginary numbers on the internet, I can promise everybody who's listening to this that in every realm of human endeavor, there is a significant amount of volume that is required in order to unlock a new skill. The amount of volume is different by person. Some people learn fast, some people learn slow, but everyone learns eventually. And so if you want to take the position that you will learn eventually, no matter how bad your genetics, no matter how bad your upbringing is, which is the position that I prefer because it's under your control, then you just have to do so much volume that it is unreasonable that you fail. And so I see this and say, like, I fumbled my 20s chasing imaginary numbers. To me, I hear that and I think, like, you don't have a wife. How many dates did you go on? Did you go on 10? Did you go on 100? Did you go on 500? Now you might think to yourself, wait, well, I can't even get dates. Then I would say, okay, how many girls did you ask out? 1 a day? 5 a day? 10 a day? Well, I don't leave my house. Okay. How many times do you leave your house a day? Right? Like, all of these things can be solved with volume. And it's just that, like, it's just people radically underestimate how many repetitions it takes to get good. Like, people saw the presentation that I gave at the book launch and were like, oh, Alex is such a natural. Like, if I've posted some of my early videos, I do not sound natural. Like, this does not sound good. I do not sound cool. I have virtually no achievements to my name now at that point. And so one thing I will say in terms of having some level of confidence is this. Extrapolate your past success of any kind to your next success. So what does that mean? Like if you were good at one subject in school, then it's like, okay, if I was good at that subject, then I can be good at all the subjects. And then once you're good at all the subjects, it's like, okay, well, I did pretty well in that grade, then I can do well in all the grades. And then once you do well in all the grades, then you graduate and you're like, well, if I did well in all the grades, I could probably do well at working out and get in shape. I mean, there's no reason I can apply all that work here and I can't apply that work here. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not rich, but like I'm in shape and I did well in school. And so I can apply that work ethic and that thinking of just doing repetitions, doing the studying, doing the work, that I'll be able to figure out this new job, or I'll figure out this new role, or I'll figure out this new AI system, whatever it is. And I think I can apply that to this. And so fundamentally, what separates humans from other animals is the ability to apply the transitive property. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. That transition is what separates humans from everything else on Earth. Just being able to say, oh, then A equals C if A equals B and B equals C. And so the idea is that we have generalizable skills. You can learn how to work hard at anything. And just about everyone here has worked hard at something. Maybe it was video games, maybe it was one particular course in one particular year for one particular teacher, but you have done something. And the idea is to take that something and say, because I did it that time, I can do it again. And to be able to consistently apply that, and then what happens is you create this snowball until eventually you have this feeling that you walk in a room and you're like, I am inevitable. I may not get it the first time, but I will fucking get it. Because I will either die or I will figure it out. And I've got a lot of life left to live. So if you're under 30 and you have no responsibilities, I recommend working as many hours per week as humanly possible, because you will never be able to work this hard again. And the compounding effects of a few years of hard work like this can set you up for your life for decades. And this is what I think people miss out on. It's like, we have this crescendo, we have this early part of the skill gap. It's like, why would we not want to shovel as much towards that as we can? Now listen, I want to be very clear. If you were like, I love my life the way it is, then you won. You're great. Like, hallelujah. I'm on your team. You've already won. Teach the world. All right. But for everyone who's dissatisfied with where you're at, and if you don't have these responsibilities, if you're like, well, I have 3 kids, it's like, okay, then you have trade-offs. I mean, straight up, you've got trades. But if you don't have those responsibilities, and you do have the time and you do have the energy, and you were not happy with where you are, or rather you would like it to be better, your business to be better, your career to be better, whatever it is, why not give this time and this energy? Because that is the time you have it. You will never have fewer responsibilities than you have now. And I think it's worth digging the well before you're thirsty. Because having to do that later, not to say impossible, just harder. And to be clear, some of you guys are in that position. You're like, dude, I got a wife and kids and now I'm going to start my thing. Amazing. It's going to be harder for you. Here's the plus side. You got more experience. So you can be more strategic with your effort. That's the pro. You look at every pro athlete, it's like by the end of their careers, they're conserving their energy better. They make the right, they strike at the right times. Their technique is better, right? But they don't have the sheer power. They don't have the sheer strength they had, their quickness, the flexibility they had in their youth. And that's what expands people's careers. Because in the youth, like, you don't have the experience, you don't have the technique, you don't have this, but you have all these other things. And that's what creates longer, and it changes how people fight, how people do anything. And so every position has advantages and disadvantages. Every position on the board has an advantage, right? If you have nothing to lose, then you have nothing to lose. If you're like, I have nothing, it means you have nothing to lose. I don't know how to say that differently. And see, the idea that you were in the position where you can literally take endless, unlimited lottery tickets from life, which means you try and you try and you try and you try because your downside is 0. You have nothing to lose. And so fear comes from having something to lose. And so in order to be fearless, we have to come to the realization that nothing in this world belonged to you to begin with. Like, we're just passers-by. Even if you accumulate whatever assets you think you are, you just push your chips back at the end of the game anyways. And so, it's just the game. And so you're somebody who has no chips, but the one thing that's different about poker versus real life is that the chips you get replenished every day with the minutes of time that you have. And so you could run out of chips, but you still have time. Now, if you run out of chips in the real life, out of coins, right? Game over. But until that day, you can play every day. And I think that when you have a capped downside and uncapped upside, that is the recipe for opportunity.